Hey, it's Chad with Drowning Corner. Today is Monday, October 5th, and we are going to be talking about the most explosive thing that happened just after our podcast release on Friday. It's the president coming down with COVID. Now, a lot of things have happened since then. We've had a big weekend. The doctors have been out and talked to us. We've had the president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, talk to us a little bit. And some of those reports have been conflicting. Now, the important thing to know is that the president has COVID. Apparently, based on the doctors and Mark Meadows, he's improving. Things seem to be going the right direction. Now, exactly where that level of care is and how bad it got, we don't really know. The doctors came out and said that he's shown significant improvement over the last couple of days. Significant improvement means that maybe there was something to be improved upon, and the president wasn't doing as well as we all thought. Mark Meadows came out and said some things that kind of contradicted some of the doctors, and there's been pushback either way about exactly what the doctors did do, if he needed supplemental oxygen, how bad his symptoms really are. There have been a couple of pictures posted of him still working inside Walter Reed. He was admitted into the hospital, and the talk is whether that was precautionary or if that was necessary or exactly where that level of care is. Obviously, we're not getting a lot of word. You can listen to the doctors, and they seem to say that everything looks pretty standard for a COVID diagnosis, and the president is working through his therapies just fine. It's important to know he did not take hydroxychloroquine, and he is on a experimental drug that should supposedly help out. They're in third phase testing now, so it's not available to the public. Whether or not that was a big factor in his recovery, if that happens, we don't know yet. Everything about his recovery here is kind of kept under wraps. So we heard that he could be released as early as Monday to come back to the Oval Office. That seems extraordinarily fast, but who knows these days. The First Lady appears to have lesser symptoms, is not feeling nearly as bad as the president at least once did. The thing that they talked about that was probably most pronounced is that his blood oxygen level went from, the high 90s down to mid to even lower 90s at one point. They said there were just a couple of times that happened. How bad that actually is kind of up for grabs, but it's bad enough that there has been talk about his treatments because of that. So we're all kind of waiting to hear more. Ultimately, it looks like he's kind of doing all right, at least right now. What this means for a couple of other things is that we have the next debate coming up on the 15th. Now, if he gets cleared tomorrow, that only leaves 10 days between him coming out of the hospital and the 15th. And there's probably not enough room in there for negative tests and the rest of your sloughing off of the COVID issues prior to that debate. I haven't heard anything yet about that being canceled, but I cannot imagine that they're going to be moving forward with that debate at that time, which only leaves one more in late October that they would be doing before the election actually occurs, and plenty of mail-in ballots will have already been sent in by that time. So the sooner that debate occurs, the better for Trump, who is trailing in almost every battleground state poll that's out there. So he's going to want to get that debate in. I'm guessing the Biden campaign is probably going to be a little bit reluctant to be in the same room as the president, who just had COVID less than 10 days ago. So we have to watch for that. Watch for whether or not that debate happens or what the language is around that debate. Obviously, there were lots of people calling for no more debates after the first one because it went off the rails a little bit, but whether or not it actually gets canceled, I think, will be a question that's asked significantly over the course of this next week. Along with the president, there were plenty of senators that either self-quarantined or actually tested positive for COVID because everybody was meeting at the Amy Coney Barrett nomination announcement. And they think that that's where a lot of this got spread and passed around. There'll also be questions about exactly when the president knew and when all the other people knew about their potential COVID run-in and even their actual diagnosis, because if any of them went out or chose to ride on a public plane or go to a fundraiser or anything along those lines, that's going to be dissected really pretty heavily as they contact trace this out and find exactly where all of these branches lead out. So keep an eye on that as well over the course of this next week. It's going to be a wild one with all of those senators out and all the other major players moving around and maybe not being able to happen. This could delay the Supreme Court nomination process and bringing it to the floor. Mitch McConnell has already put a pause on basically all Senate action for the next couple of days, not including the nomination process. Now, whether or not that moves forward without the help of these 3 senators, we're going to have to pay attention this week and see where that happens. Other than that, everything seems smooth sailing. It's been an extraordinary weekend. I imagine once the week starts, it's only going to get that much crazier. So stay with us here at Drawn and Cornered every day to get your real quick news wrap up and everything you need to be paying attention to for that day. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to get in touch at drawnandcornered@gmail.com. That's drawnand@gmail. Or you can leave a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you like what you're seeing, subscribe to the podcast. We'll get you more out every day so you can be ready to go to talk to anybody about the politics in your world. Thanks a lot.